The Palestinian National Security Forces are the paramilitary security forces of the Palestinian National Authority. The name may either refer to all national security forces, including some special services but not including the interior security forces, the Presidential Guard and General Intelligence, or refer to the main force within the national security forces. Since the signing of the Oslo Accords, these forces operate in areas controlled by the PNA. In 2003, the organizations were merged into the Palestinian Security Services. The Palestinian National Security Forces engage in various activities, including general law enforcement. A rough estimate of the total strength as of 2007 is 42,000 troops. As the Israeli-Palestinian conflict goes on, the security forces notably cooperate with other law enforcement agencies, such as arresting militant subgroups and assisting the Israeli government with prosecuting those picked up. According to the Jerusalem Post, in the past, Palestinian security forces have released arrested terrorists and then quietly tipped off Israel to mitigate internal public criticism against handing over Palestinians to Israel. As part of the Oslo Accords, the Palestinian National Authority was authorized to recruit and train a police force with paramilitary capabilities, but was not permitted to have a military force. Several bilateral agreements between the PNA and Israel regulate the size of the force, its structure, armament, and composition. The agreements provide Israel with the right to review potential recruits and withhold approval of those with a terrorist background. They were not enforced, however, with the result that the actual size and equipment of the force in 2002 exceeded what was permitted. Initially, Yasser Arafat set up a string of 14 overlapping and often competing security forces, each one controlled by a rival political or former guerrilla chieftain, but all of them ultimately loyal to him and his Fatah party. After Hamas had established a PNA government in March 2006, it formed its own security service, the Executive Force, headed by Jamal Abu Samhadana, who was killed by Israel 3 months later. The national security forces engage in various activities, including general law enforcement. The military intelligence collects external military intelligence. It became the NSF Military Intelligence Department. The military police is a separate unit. The military liaison coordinates security with Israel and participated in joint Israeli-Palestinian patrols. In the past, the naval police is tasked to protect the territorial waters of Gaza. The predecessor of the NSF was the PLO's Palestine Liberation Army. When the NSF were formed, most personnel was recruited from the PLA. Gradually, local recruits were added. From the late 1990s, the KIA played the central role in building up PA security forces, in close cooperation with the Israeli military and intelligence. After the killing of 3 U.S. officials in the Gaza Strip in 2003, British forces played an increasingly active role. The Palestinian Preventive Security Force played a significant role during the Al-Aqsa Intifada. It participated in major operations such as Operation Defensive Shield. They also took part in battles such as the Battle of Jenin and the Siege of the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, according to The Guardian. Based on the Palestine Papers, in 2003, British Prime Minister Tony Blair approved a plan of the Secret Intelligence Service MI6 for a US-led counter-insurgency surge against Hamas. MI6 proposed a secret plan to crush Hamas and other armed groups on the West Bank. It included internment of leaders and activists, closure of radio stations and replacement of imams in mosques. The plan recommended inter alia, degrading the capabilities of the rejectionists, Hamas, PIJ and the Al-Aqsa brigades, through the disruption of their leadership's communications and command and control capabilities, the detention of key middle-ranking officers, and the confiscation of their arsenals and financial resources. Also, the internment of leading Hamas and PIJ figures should have been explored. The plan aimed to implement the roadmap for peace. In March 2005, a secret British-Palestinian security plan was presented with detailed proposals for a new security task force. based on trusted PA contacts outside the control of traditional security chiefs, a British, US security verification team, and direct lines to Israeli intelligence. The document notes that Israel was not content with the functioning of the NSF and opposed enhancement of the organization with munitions and surveillance equipment. In a subtle approach, the old guard could be retired with honor. With subtle timing, once the decisions are made and the new structures are emerging, the Israeli occupation has totally destroyed the capability of the NSF itself and inflicted significant damage on its infrastructure. NSF per